Welcome. Ceremony will begin momentarily. First, a few important announcements regarding today's program. Please take a moment to locate the nearest exit so that you may safely and calmly exit the arena in the event of an emergency. With consideration to our graduates and their families, please silence your mobile devices for the duration of the ceremony. To ensure all guests are able to enjoy the program, please do not block the aisle, stand in front of other guests, or go down onto the arena floor. Photographs of each graduate will be taken as they walk across the stage to receive their degrees. Opportunities to obtain these high-quality photographs from Grad Images will be made available to each graduate approximately 48 hours after the ceremony. After the ceremony, please make your way to 27 Market Square, outdoors next to the RISD Auditorium, for a celebratory reception. At this time, we ask that everyone please find your seats. The ceremony is about to begin. Welcome to the Rhode Island School of Design's 2025 commencement. You may be seated. Again, please silence all cell phones and take a moment to locate the nearest emergency exit. Vice President for Social Equity and Inclusion, Rami Hanna, will read the Rhode Island School of Design Land Acknowledgement.
Rhode Island School of Design is built on what is now called College Hill, part of the ancestral homelands of the Narragansett Nation. Indigenous people from many nations, near and far, live, study, and work in Providence today. The amplification of Native voices and histories is crucial to rectifying the many violent legacies of colonialism, and we gratefully acknowledge the ongoing critical contributions of Indigenous people across our state, region, and nation. Land acknowledgements are not confined to the past. They are a living, ongoing responsibility. As an institution dedicated to art and design, we recognize the power of creative expression in illuminating histories and imagining more equitable futures. Together, we will work to foster Indigenous visibility by reflecting critically and centering the voices and lived experiences of Indigenous people in our learning and making. Thank you.
Please welcome President Crystal Williams.
Thank you, Vice President Hanna. Thank you, Hugo. And a very special thank you to our musical accompaniment by ERB. They're great. Thank you also to the wonderful team of staff, faculty, students, alumni, and volunteers who've made today's ceremony possible. I'd also like to acknowledge the 3 members of RISD's Student-Run Design Guild who designed this year's materials: graphic design seniors Li Huang, Min Aaron Kim, and Nadine Makupagul. And a warm welcome to all of you gathered here today to celebrate Rhode Island School of Design's 142nd commencement and the class of 2025. Greetings to RISD's co-chairs of the Board of Trustees, members of the board, staff, faculty, librarians, curators, honorary degree recipients, alumni, friends, and families. It's wonderful to gather and celebrate the accomplishments of RISD's graduating students. I want to congratulate all of you. I would especially like to acknowledge the parents, caregivers, family, and other beloveds who've supported the graduates, providing them with advice, insight, and encouragement, even when many of you may not have understood exactly what art school is, what it could uniquely offer your child, what might be possible with a degree from art school. For many of you parents and families, particularly those of you who are not artists and designers, you stepped out on a limb, faith-filled, that your child had a deep well of wisdom that was calling them to this powerful place. You've been instrumental in their arrival here. When I'm out in the world and meet parents and caregivers, to the person, you express to me how thankful you are that your child, often the kid in high school who was a bit on the periphery of things, who often didn't quite jibe with the other students, who saw things differently, who doodled in meetings and classes when everybody else was, I don't know, doing less interesting things. These young people persisted in their belief that RISD was the place for them. And then they got here and exhaled. And you heard from them, "I've found my peeps, I've found my place." And they began to bloom, and bloomed they have. Indeed, RISD is precisely where artists, dreamers, and makers converge, leaning on and into each other, pushing each other to innovate, sharpen, and grow. You have trusted your children enough to loan them to us, and in so doing, you also are now part of this incredible community of humans that believe in the power and necessity of artists and designers, that power more important now than ever before. So I and we thank you, parents and families. We are living in a moment of significant historical importance, and context matters, as do the footsteps which we all follow and the histories which are unfolding. Students, brilliant ones, many of you have heard me say that artists and designers matter, that you are the people who envision new ways forward, enable the human project through beautiful, functional interventions, that you are the people who inspire and who give voice and value to the unspoken realities of our lives. I've sometimes called you, the group of you, sparks on the precipice of ignition, and I have asserted that combined, you are fire. That is and remains true, so I want to speak to the ways in which the fact of you, your fire, your collective matters. These are troubling times, and while I know you'll leave this campus armed with the skills and habits of mind and action that will ensure you can accomplish your aspirations, I also hope for you to leave this campus thinking about, mulling over, gnashing on two principles which have guided my life, provided succor when I was sorrowful, ballast when I was adrift, and light when around me was darkness. The first guiding principle is this: human endeavors and humans are better, stronger, wiser, smarter, cleverer, bolder, more insightful, more innovative, more exciting when we, our groups, our communities, our institutions are comprised of people from all regions of the world, from all viewpoints, all ways of thinking, ways of making. RISD is a place where many languages and religions, cultures, and art and design traditions converge. And because of that, RISD is a place where ideas cannot stagnate, but are challenged, contradicted, developed, and deepened. This is uncontestable. The differences between us are one of our most enduring and defining strengths. Where there is human difference, curiosity thrives. And where curiosity thrives, learning emerges and expands. And where there is expansion in humans, intellectual, emotional, moral, cultural, philosophical, progress is achieved. To the members of our international community, you, in this group, hail from Armenia, Australia, Belarus, Canada, China, Cuba, France, Germany, Guatemala, Haiti, Hong Kong, India, Iran, Israel, Italy, Japan, Jordan, Kenya, Korea, Kuwait, Netherlands, Pakistan, Peru, Romania, Saudi Arabia, Serbia, Singapore, Spain, Sri Lanka, Sweden, Taiwan, Thailand, Turkey, Ukraine, United Kingdom, Vietnam, Zimbabwe. You are and will forever remain beloved and valued members of RISD. One of the great strengths of this cherished institution is the world's great art traditions. Art and design traditions are represented in the form of our faculty and, importantly, students who bring the world into studios, into crits, and into the future as artists and designers will define it. This mutuality, this call to learn as a collective, to innovate as a collective, is part of our enduring strength, both as an institution and as artists and designers. The guiding principle, brilliant ones, is this: continue to surround yourself with people from all walks of life, from places and from all things, and yours will be a profoundly rich, exciting, expansive journey. The second guiding principle is predicated upon a quote that I hold dear to my heart. In 1949, before many of us in this room were born, theologian Howard Thurman wrote, quote, It is never to be forgotten that one of the ways by which men measure their own significance is to be found in the amount of power and energy other men must use in order to crush them or hold them back. Thurman was speaking about the African American plight in this country, but those words remain relevant today in many ways. Thurman offered those words in the context of a world, an era in which, in that year, NATO was formed, Germany was divided into East and West, the People's Republic of China in those years was established, and more broadly, the civil rights movement in the US was gaining momentum, and importantly, the Red Scare and McCarthyism here in the United States was gaining steam, which required loyalty oaths and blacklists and investigations of suspected communists in government, academia, Hollywood, and the arts. Which brings us to this moment, brilliant ones, and why Thurman's statement matters to you. So I want to summarize what I have extracted from that statement. What Thurman said was, the power of a people, in this case, the power of artists and designers, can be measured by how much strength and energy others use to hold them back. Some of you, brilliant ones, are uncertain about your next steps. Does your work matter given the scope of turbulence in the world? Despite the level of mastery your faculty has deemed to be excellent and worthy of your degree, some of you will soon walk across this stage feeling unprepared. Others of you feel prepared but confused. And yet others are feeling hopeful, curious, invigorated by the unknowns before you. These feelings are all normal, and in fact, they are common. This is a truism of nearly every graduate I have met, and I've met many. But today, your uncertainty may feel more intense than is typical, because what is also true is that you are entering a world in which, in this country and others, our enduring cultural institutions and knowledge sanctuaries and funding mechanisms, places like the Kennedy Center, the Smithsonian, the National Endowment for the Arts, the National Endowment for the Humanities, our museums and libraries are being systematically endangered. And all of this is cause, of course, for collective dismay, and especially so for those of you who are just emerging into the world and into this complexity. But again, I would remind you what Thurman said, that the power of a people can be measured by how much energy others use to hold them back. So it is in this context that we see the true power of art and design. The arts have been and always will be the most significant catalyst for social, cultural, and political change and for personal evolution. And what that means, brilliant ones, is that you matter. Your work matters, whether you are an overtly culturally or socially engaged artist and designer or not. Your work endeavors matter, your inventions matter, your interventions matter. You, as a collective and as individuals, are powerful. The proof point resides in his summary that you can measure the power by how much others are trying to obscure and hold them back. So, storytellers, weavers, architects, dreamers, painters, dancers, directors, musicians, writers, makers, solution seekers, sculptors, printmakers, illustrators, furniture and jewelry makers, animators, speakers of the secrets of the heart. This is a time to stand up with pride and with purpose in power. It is not a time to get it twisted or to miss the assignment. Your collective, the collective of artists and designers you have been in and among, the collective of artists and designers into which you now emerge, you are all the light in the darkness. We trust that you will go into the world, powerful as you are, brilliant as you are, and light it up. Congratulations. It is now my pleasure to introduce Provost Tuba Gadesi.
Thank you, President Williams, for these important words. I am delighted to introduce our graduate student speaker, Selena Kewon Wu, Master of Fine Arts in Graphic Design. Selena is a graphic designer, artist, and researcher. Born and raised in Nanjing, China, she came to the US to pursue a BFA in communication design from Washington University in St. Louis. Her work bridges editorial design, material experimentation, and philosophical inquiry engaging themes of time, memory, and nostalgia. Please welcome Selena to the podium.
Wow, it's really bright up here. Thank you, President Williams, Provost Gadesi, fellow graduates, faculty, staff, families, and friends. Good morning. I want to start by acknowledging something we all have in common. We've all lied about exactly the same thing. Don't worry, I won't get us all in trouble. Here's what I mean. When we first arrived at RISD, we made grand promises about how we'd explore all of Providence. I would visit every gallery. I would wander the waterfront. I would try every restaurant. But let's be honest, we all ended up in the same place, didn't we? The studio. A month or so ago, I was on the RISD Rides bus at 3 a.m. coming home from the studio just before the service stops running. That's usually my sign to go home unless I greet the cleaning crew at sunrise. The RISD Rides driver, Mike, asked me what my plan was for last semester. I said, I'm probably gonna bask under the fluorescent lights of the type shop until they kick me out. He laughed and said, "Ha, you're just like every other RISD student, always in the studio. Why don't you guys get out a little?" I burst out laughing because he was absolutely right. I remember after the new grad student picnic at Tillinghast Farm, thinking I would go again every weekend. I was also going to take the train to Boston every week just because the MBTA is only $10. Sounds easy, right? But now, as I sat on the RISD Rides bus, galloping through the night, I realized even this, my most routine little adventure, would not happen much longer. At that precise moment, it hit me with crystal clarity. This is actually my last semester at RISD. And not only that, maybe my last semester of ever being a student, full-time. For many of us, our MFA is our last stop as a student, forever. Whenever we stress about this, friends say, just enjoy your last summer. Pretty soon, you'll be part of the capitalist machine. I hear them, but for now, I'm just stuck in the past. When will we push through the 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. studio classes again? When will we complain about getting a 2:30 p.m. registration time? When will we jam the studio printer with diabolical paper halting production till tomorrow. When will we gather on the couches to discuss the floor plan of a biennial that we have complete control over? When else will we celebrate our communal suffering? Eating dinner at 11 p.m., crying over software crash at 2 a.m., as if working like this isn't completely anti-human. These experiences are so RISD specific. The things we laugh about, complain about, gossip about, critique about, get upset about, get touched about, they all happen in our wonderful studio space. And those spaces, like this time, are fleeting. RISD has been more than just an education. It's been a playground for experimentation and risk-taking, which would be really hard to replicate in the professional world. RISD has given us a safe harbor to push boundaries without the immediate pressure of market demands or client expectations. Where else can we 3D scan and reprint the same rubber duck 15 times in the name of academic inquiry? Or create an elaborate installation that requires 3 weeks to install and only exists for half an hour? Or write and design a beautifully bound book in defense of QR codes as if they were an endangered species of visual language? Or have the audacity to invent a new writing system that no one, including us, can actually read? All true stories, by the way. We've all been free to experiment wildly, fail spectacularly, and to pursue ideas simply because they fascinate us. Our cohorts have become not just colleagues, but also accomplices in creative crimes, conspirators in conceptual adventures. In the professional world we're heading into, failure is expensive. Budgets don't tolerate detours or weird sparks that fizzle out. Instead, you have to touch base at the 8 a.m. check-in and meet your targets, make the logo bigger, go back to version 1. Those aren't jokes in the real world. That's your whole Tuesday. But here's the thing I'm hoping about the future. Even inside all those corporate constraints, we get to decide how we show up. Maybe we cannot fail spectacularly in the same way, but we can still think like the people who do. We can bring the studio with us in how we question, how we push, in how we make something a little weirder, a little riskier, and a little more ours. Maybe the studio shows up when you're spiraling into perfectionism at work. Maybe you suddenly hear a cohort's voice echoing in your head, stop thinking and start making. Maybe it's in a passing comment you remember from Crit, when someone encouraged you to follow the strange idea instead of the safe one. That's studio, that's RISD. It lives in us now, in the micro decisions, in the rejection of defaults, and in seeing a sliver of possibility to overturn the expectations. As I sat on the RISD bus that night, watching the familiar streets of Providence slip by in darkness, I realized something really profound. We don't actually leave RISD behind when we graduate. The late nights in the studio, the breakthroughs during critique, the failures that led to unexpected discoveries, they've all become part of our creative DNA now. As permanent as the pain stains on our fingernails or the muscle memories of our hands on the tools. Mike, the bus driver, was actually right. We did end up spending most of our time in the studio. But that's not as dire as it sounds. Because once you've been transformed by RISD, the boundaries of the studio dissolve into life itself. So as we prepare to step off this particular bus, remember that the ride doesn't end here. We are just changing vehicles, carrying with us the precious cargo of our RISD experience. And so, fellow graduates, as we turn this page, remember the ink is still wet. The canvas still breathes with possibility. Our greatest works lie ahead, waiting to be born. For us, these moments at RISD are some of our last, but they also will last. And we will see each other out there. We will feel a flicker of connection when we meet someone who's been in these studios, someone who is still jamming the printer, still making something a little weird. Congratulations, class of 2025. May your creativity forever flow like the Providence River. You know, the one that you never ever walked along? Sometimes tranquil, sometimes rushing, but always, always moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Selena, for these beautiful, funny, and true words. And the sun just came out, so if you want to walk by the river and try a restaurant this afternoon, you're welcome to do so. It is now my pleasure to introduce the senior class speaker, Valerie Mira. Graduating with a BFA in painting, Valerie paints animal subjects, anthropogenic structures, and ecological systems. She is also a naturalist who works extensively with animals, from lab and wildlife rehabilitation settings to caretaking. Merging art, research, and travel, she seeks to kindle empathy and devotion for the protection of the natural world. Please welcome Valerie to the podium.
My thanks go out to the president, provost, faculty, friends, family, and community. Thank you, too, to those who run the show, RISD ride drivers, groundskeepers, facilities, and dining staff. I'm honored to be here with all of you. Some of us in the room today never expected to go to college. Perhaps we didn't come from formally educated or wealthy families, making higher education an unrealistic or otherwise extremely challenging venture. By contrast, some of us grew up anticipating university from day one. It was always an undeniable facet of the plan, complete with high hopes and high anxieties. Some of us came from thousands of miles away. Others always called Providence home. Some aspired to join the ferocious pace of a design company or the quiet solitude of a private print studio. Others still were convinced they were going to study something practical until a sudden whim compelled them to submit an application to art school. Sometimes you have to fight like hell to get things to happen. Sometimes you have to wait for the right place and time, and things just fall into your lap. The sweet spot, I think, is when chance collides with the earnest will, patience, and guts it takes to see things through to the end. No matter where we fall on these various spectrums, Standing here at our graduation, I'm certain that the meanderings and forks in the road have turned all predictions on their heads. Honestly, I never seriously considered higher education. I didn't have a college fund or a sense of my professional ambitions, making my acceptance and full-ride scholarship to RISD a miracle. School was also uninteresting for me. When I first learned to speak English, I thought my public school teachers, who made a show of being unable to understand me, cruel and stupid. I stopped standing for the Pledge of Allegiance in the 4th grade. I read books of my own choosing under the desk. As a teenager, I was chronically late with an egregious absentee record. I took AP classes, but I didn't bother showing up to the exams. Clearly, I recoiled from structure. On principle, I didn't attend my high school graduation, but I wasn't against education. I knew I held a different drive. I wanted alternative avenues to learning. More than anything, I craved to question, to follow the threads of my own interests, and to insist on thinking for myself, even if I was proven wrong. I found the space I needed to do the questioning and self-discovery here. Suddenly, I existed in an ecosystem teeming with rebuttal. Not a senselessly antagonistic pushing against, rather, a cultivated and intentional aim to always be a little skeptical, thoroughly inquisitive, and absolutely engaged. Even pushing against the very makeup of the institution was a skill and a virtue we practiced well. My past 4 years at RISD have been intellectually rigorous and full to the brim with new ideas and perspectives. Many I inherited in the classroom from my professors and mentors. Many I absorbed beyond it while living and working and talking. Knowledge isn't only about information or craft. It spills space the way oxygen does, passing between people from hand to hand. Me and my friends have made music, thrown elaborate costume parties, and erected Mayday poles. We've debated furiously, wrote poetry and manifestos, organized protests. We've printed zines, staged runway shows, built digital worlds, and played DJ sets. We've designed fish tanks, altered clothes, given each other tattoos, repaired tools. We foraged for dye plants, baked bread, and put on impromptu performances. And all of these things, and countless more spontaneous miracles like them, are transmuted by ferocity and dedication into art. Such is the role of the artist, to seek out the serendipitous and live as fully and meaningfully as possible. Then to nourish it with the daily work and constant tending it takes to actually make something, from a book to a painting to a garden. Ours is serious work. I didn't understand this multiplex power and perpetuity until I came to study here. All my life, I just painted, in the same natural way I brushed my teeth or went to sleep. Or at least it seemed that way. Now I reflect often on the debt of gratitude I owe to my mother and my grandparents, who provided me with ample materials, contagious excitement, and sometimes frustrated chiding when I didn't feel like finishing a piece. Despite the classic immigrant family story of juggling several jobs to make rent, my creative impulse was always nurtured. Without their sacrifices, I wouldn't be at the podium addressing you today. But artistry would still be in my nature. The lifeblood of art would be present. The various support systems that have nourished our artistic drive have prepared us for so much. Still, we are graduating into a time fraught with hatred, greed, and uncertainty. This is enraging. This is terrifying. But this also means there's no moment more fertile than now to insist upon alternative means and methods to live and be and resist with intention. Every generation encounters its own apocalypse, and each has made it through the end of days. Artists and designers have adaptability and a knack for the subversive on our side. We came from everywhere, and we are everywhere, constructing the very chassis of our world. So we need to go out and look for one another and for our work, which might be hidden in the plain sight of architecture or in the brilliance of a film that changes minds. We're walking into the world with a set of tools, a community of peers, and the responsibility to work with as much passion as we can muster. That labor is shifting and limitless, and every day an action, unstoppable as rhizomes of grass. We must create, interrogate, and create again, fiercely, deliberately, radically. I can't wait to meet you out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valerie. It's gorgeous, gorgeous. Each year at commencement, the RISD community honors creative thinkers and makers who have made significant contributions to the worlds of art, design, and culture. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, Rhode Island School of Design is pleased to confer the degree of Honorary Doctor of Fine Arts in recognition of the outstanding achievements of the distinguished individuals who have joined us today. At this time, I'd like to ask Co-Chair Hillary Blumberg to please rise and join me for the hooding of our honorary degree candidates. Tiana Bowie, Graduate Program Director and Associate Professor of Printmaking, and Kate Irvin, Curator and Department Head of Costume and Textiles at the RISD Museum, please present the first honorary degree candidate.
Thank you, President Williams. We have the great honor of presenting Maria Magdalena Campos Pons for the Honorary Doctor of Fine Arts degree at the Rhode Island School of Design.
Maria Magdalena Campos Pons. Your creative practice spans multiple disciplines and explores how memory, spirituality, and identity are entangled with personal and collective histories across time and geographies. Your richly layered autobiographical images, performances, and installations have earned you multiple awards, including a prestigious MacArthur Fellowship. Magda Campos Pons, for your work as an educator and cultural ambassador, your universally relevant contributions to the visual arts, and the deep embodiment of the human experience that your work represents, we present you with this Honorary Doctor of Fine Arts degree from Rhode Island School of Design. Magda Campos Pons. Caliph Brown, Professor of Illustration, and Eric Telford, Associate Professor of Illustration, please present the second honorary degree candidate.
President Williams, I have the great honor to present Grace Lynn for the Honorary Doctor of Fine Arts degree from Rhode Island School of Design.
Grace Lynn, your beautifully illustrated books for children inspire readers of all ages and have been acknowledged with a wide variety of prizes and accolades, including Newbery and Caldecott medals, commendation from the National Book Foundation, and recognition as, in the words of President Barack Obama, champion of change of Asian American and Pacific Islander art and storytelling. Grace Lynn, for your exceptional work in children's literature and your advocacy for representation through illustration and literature, for the millions of children whose lives you have informed and impacted, we present you with this honorary Doctor of Fine Arts degree from your alma mater, Rhode Island School of Design. Katie Schimmer, Professor of Ceramics, please present our final honorary degree candidate.
President Williams, I have the great honor to present Rose B. Simpson for the honorary degree of Fine Arts from the Rhode Island School of Design.
Rose B. Simpson, your work reflects on the multi-layered history of your home in New Mexico, exploring modes of empowerment and resilience that connect past and present, express experience and identity, and contemplate freedom and strength. You have used your mixed media artwork as a tool for healing the damages incurred in our postmodern, post-colonial world. Rose B. Simpson, for your contributions to the world of art and design and your dedication to paying homage to the women of Ka-po-ha-inge and their role in America's past, present, and future, we present you with this honorary Doctor of Fine Arts degree from your alma mater, Rhode Island School of Design. Okay. It is now my privilege to invite Rose B. Simpson, Dr. Rose B. Simpson, alumna of Rhode Island School of Design, to address our graduates, their families and loved ones, and esteemed guests on this very, very special occasion.
This is really big. I'm gonna take a big breath. Come on. Okay. Good morning, RISD. Good morning, River. bay, trees, birds, bugs and bricks, flowers. Good morning, all the ancestors standing with us. Good morning to the millions of stories that make this moment. I am witness. Unsenge tamu. My English name is Rose. Ohua Bobi Kujoa Biakoin. I am from Capo Winge, Santa Clara Pueblo, in modern-day northern New Mexico, a place at the base of 2 mountain ranges in the high desert along the cottonwood-flanked Rio Grande River. I am a mama of 1 8-year-old, Cedar Rain. Umbi Akgindi, with your respect, I will speak. Good morning again, RISD. Good morning, staff, faculty, board, families, friends, anyone who traveled to be here this impressive and monumentous threshold for this very class. The class of 2025! Woo! I'm honored to be here, my very own alma mater. Honestly, this is totally nuts. When President Williams contacted me, I was like, who, me? Oh, absolutely, totally, yeah, for sure, I'll do it. And, oh no, this is terrifying. No pressure. Just a little bit of insomnia and no more fingernails. Any of you heard of imposter syndrome? For those of you who haven't, imposter syndrome is where you feel like an actor in a play that is fancier than you. And there is a deep fear that you'll get discovered for not being the correct character for the position, or something like that. I feel like it happens because we often hold external values or ideals of success higher than the values that live cozy deep within ourselves. Maybe imposter syndrome only applies when we are dancing around an idea or a story we are told or are telling ourselves of what is supposed to be, rather than what very genuinely and presently is. Fun fact, I've always struggled with imposter syndrome. From being a mixed blood, light-skinned kid growing up on the res, to a res farm boonies kid trying to keep up with the wit of most up-to-date media, phrases and phases. Who am I? Who am I? Where do I belong? Where do I go? What do I crave? How do I feel? How to feel? What to act upon? What does respect look like here and there? Everywhere. Honestly, I feel like if I'm ever ultra confident in any situation, I will have lost the plot. I think I know really what's going on. If I ever think I know really what's going on, I will have sacrificed the mystery. I will have sold my authenticity much too short. There is a gift in imposter syndrome that we keep questioning the moment, investigating our own identities and truths. So thank you, deep questioning, for keeping me on my toes. Speaking of toes, I remember clomping down Waterman in the first week of moving to Providence, holding my RISD ID in my hand, my face printed adjacent to the legendary logo. RISD had only been a dream, and it was nigh. That was 2009. RISD, a buffet of opportunity, feedback, overwhelm, and victory. I sometimes felt as if I had gone to war with my cohort. And we all have this story that no one else in the world will ever know. And just like every group, from every department and corner of these buildings bookending the river, I'm sure there are 10 million faceted realities. When I was at RISD, my narrative was that I was learning to communicate through sculptural visual language, performance in the written word. I felt like what I was doing was very much outward, searching for acknowledgement, agreement, understanding, maybe even compassion or camaraderie. Maybe, just maybe, through my work, someone out there would self-reflect and make changes in their lives. Consider something they may not have had considered before, maybe even understand more fully a historically silenced voice. Believe it, stand behind it, stand beside it, amplify it. It's been 14 years since I packed up my studio and left Providence, and I've traversed a lot of life since then. I've had many defeats, but also so many wins. My work has been received, my voice amplified. I have been supported, promoted, even valued. The more support that I've received, the more profound the nagging whisper, "Why me?" I'm not sure if I knew it fully at the time, but while I was having an arts experience at RISD, I was actually searching for my authentic self, my authentic voice, my authentic work, my authentic journey. The whole thing, the seminar, studio, the crit, the moving far away from home to make a go of it, was a means to intentionally work on excavating my truest self. The sifting, scavenging, tasting, building, knocking down, trying on, rummaging through, loving, despising, networking, screaming in joy and in misery, messing up, cold sweat awakenings, leading me ever closer to that glowing home in the deep center of my very being, to what matters to me, moves me, to what values I hold dearest. That's what we're all doing, right? I'd like to say that when I loaded the U-Haul truck to leave Providence at the end of my RISD graduate experience, my whole world packed in there. Bed and house and art and cat and studio plants peeking out the temporary greenhouse windshield of my red Jeep Cherokee teetering on the aluminum trailer to be lugged back to my dusty New Mexico home. That I had figured it out. I did. I cried through a couple of the bigger states because I felt accomplished. I felt raw. I felt complicated, even jaded. I felt undone and nicely laced. I felt closer to my truth. I was not anywhere near who I was when I left 2 years prior. I had more confidence and also way less. I knew more of what I didn't know. The mountain I had summited showed me a road that stretched further than I thought possible. That summit was a threshold. Who was I? Who am I? Who do I need to be? Every time I slapped a nice big comfortable label of a name tag on myself, I felt the world shrink, the enigma of creation dissolve. Every time I felt a pang of imposter syndrome, I slapped a Band-Aid of justification on it. I gaslit my doubt with victim stories and dissociative self-righteousness. I crafted satisfactory identities with egos that matched the stories I told myself, and I missed out on watching the sunset. In this life since, I've kept finding myself confronting layer after layer of mask I've put on for education, community, love, career, motherhood, car bodies and engines, and optimistic monumental art proposals that Rose of the Past thought was a great idea for the ever-evolving Rose of the Present to accomplish. I hope that this is your journey too, that you will have the audacity to question what you thought you were, even if you were once certain, that you believe in a multitude of thresholds to come, and in that audacious trust, to throw yourselves through them. Learning, experimenting, doing the thing that scares me the most keeps me finding new thresholds of my soul, like a recurring dream where I'm searching my home and finding beautiful doors to rooms I didn't know existed. Like, piloting a hovering helicopter. No, hear me out. Ever since I was a kid, building fighter jet models, painting them with insignias of my own fleet and stringing them to the ceiling with fishing line, I wanted to fly. I night dreamed of flying and daydreamed of weightlessness, of the feeling of G-force, speed, what felt like empowered freedom. It felt familiar. It felt like my truth. In high school, I figured I could forgive my complete lack of patriotism because I wanted so badly the toys. That was until my trajectory was stubbornly grounded when my mom hung up on the Air Force when they called. That was the year 2000. In the beginning of 2024, I sat in an interview at the end of a long table, a neat stack of paperwork in front of me, hoping to be accepted into the helicopter pilot school at Vertical Limit Aviation in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We all stood, shook hands, and I headed to my Challenger. By the time I hit the freeway, I couldn't stop crying. There was no reason for me to pursue this other than it was time to finally flip this stone in my life, one that had become cemented in, covered in moss. By summer, I was floating R-22 skids about 4 feet off the 3-0 runway in a doorless hot glass bubble. Feet on the pedals, left hand on the collective and right on the cyclic, listening to my instructor, shoulder almost rubbing mine, Isaiah's voice only audible through the headset. You have the controls. And then I repeat, I have the controls. But do I really? The first few classes, I was still in 80s kid Top Gun mode. A world of dudes, the ability to draw the drivetrain with all accompanying gear ratios, rote memorization of all the thousands of ways things can get critical in a helicopter, low G, mass bump, auto rotations, mind games to justify the why me in me. By the time I was in the flight simulator, I learned how incredibly easy it is to turn a helicopter into a swing set. When I mastered the simulator swing set, I was allowed to apply it to the real thing. Blades whirring above, desert sucking fast under my feet. Here we are, out in the incredible oscillating magic of a mechanical dragonfly, and here I am over the painted runway numbers 30, turning this dangerous little thing into a swing set. While American, United, Southwest, and all the people in those jets and their business trips and headed to graduations and 3 Black Hawk helicopters in a perfect line from the Kirtland Air Force Base are all passing by watching. Watching rookie me overcorrecting, whoop, 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 here we go, engaged swing set. I can't imagine anything more humiliating. Instructor Isaiah corrects us again before it gets critical. Isaiah doesn't know who I am, other than student. Isaiah doesn't have time to digest my identity, apply my life story to my learning style. Isaiah is risking his life to allow me to learn, to humiliate myself, to be embarrassingly horrible at something. Isaiah doesn't have cool aviators and a swagger, and he probably could care less if I do. Isaiah is a damn good teacher. He tells me, small adjustments, smaller rows, smaller. The cyclic only moves the size of a dime. Practice making adjustments the size of a dime. Readjust your grip. He must know that I'm gripping things so hard my forearm is cramping. Focus your eyes on the runway light, Rose. Don't look at the gauges. Look outside. Keep your eyes outside. He has the controls, and I can feel him keeping us steady. I look outside the bubble, find the little blue blip of a runway light, and I breathe. I let Rose go. I let the fight go. I sure as hell let Top Gun go. I ask for help. Ancestors, anyone, help me. I'm so frustrated. I've never been so bad at anything in my whole life. My ego is throwing a fit somewhere back there. My face is hot and red, tears, and a lump in my throat. I let it. You have the controls. I have the controls. We are floating. We are still. I am breathing. If we creep slightly to the right, I bring us back with the cyclic, no more than a dime, and hold us over the 3-0. I don't know who I am, but it's not the me that came to fly this thing. I had to put her down. I had to let her go. I remembered the day I cried on the freeway. I was mourning, and I didn't know what yet. I was mourning the release of yet another identity that I knew I had to go through, a threshold into a deeper knowing of my truth. I had to let that story go entirely. Isaiah distracted me with, "You are hovering, congrats! Now you can juggle while riding a unicycle on a skateboard." As soon as Isaiah spoke, I lost control again and we started swooping, but I had felt it. It got me, I got it. I was transformed. Almost a year later, and I'm at the next humiliating stage of challenge, air traffic control calls, which I might be possibly worse at than hovering. But I am satisfied that I now know why I had to do this, one step closer to what's underneath. Maybe it's through humbling oneself to do something terrifyingly new, to risk embarrassment, to risk shame, to have the audacity to do the thing that questions what I thought I knew. to get close to critical and stay afloat. In that moment of connectedness, however you may find it, however it may offer itself up, through words, practice, silence, courage, lives the truest self, the one beyond thought, the one beyond certainty or righteousness, the one beyond all the lies we've been told or the ones we've told ourselves. These moments are thresholds, like this one now. May there be thresholds, beautiful souls, ever spectacular and unimaginable thresholds, chapters upon chapters of journey to your brilliant and beautiful mysterious cores. May these chapters deliver you ever closer to your divine truth, your brilliant authenticity, to the knowing of what is unquestionably loving, effortlessly boundaried, blissfully present, and the kind of true service that is inherently devoid of guilt, fear, or shame. Just loving the process and practice and love. And there are those teachers like Isaiah who will be present and non-judgmental as they lead you through those endearingly sloppy moments. That the decisions between right and wrong aren't even the point anymore, because remember that? That was kindergarten. We know we are love, changing ourselves and changing the world, and we are no longer playing chutes and ladders, honey bunny. This life is the art you are making. It's not about right, it's about real. And atrocities against children and babies of all kinds, plants, animals, humans, anywhere, will pain you. It's 2025, and I'm standing at the edge of a vast ocean of stars, and so are you. The future, grim or utopic, as we may tell ourselves, is the most incredible and beautiful mystery. Now that you know everything, or you figured out that you don't know, let it unfold you. As you unfold, so does the whole world. And I believe that the authenticity you will find is the most powerful beauty imaginable. Let it see you. Let yourselves meet it. And I will too, right there with you. And in this silly chapter I'm in right now, ATC calls are absolutely terrifying. So I'll keep practicing by calling my daughter to dinner like Santa Clara Tower to helicopter 2016, Charlie Echo Delta Alpha Romeo, proceed to land at dinner table 01 immediately. Your food is getting cold. I repeat, your food is getting cold. Here's to the journey and whatever it takes. Congrats and bon voyage, class of 2025.
Thank you for those inspiring words, Rose. And now we will recognize graduate students from this year's class of 2025. Our graduate students received their hoods, one of the symbols of their achievements at yesterday's hooding ceremonies. Provost Gadesi, please present the candidates for the master's degrees.
Much shorter than whoever was here. Candidates for master's degrees, please rise if you wish and if you are able. President Williams, upon the recommendation of the faculty of Rhode Island School of Design, I have the honor of presenting the candidates for the degrees of Master of Arts in Global Arts and Cultures, Master of Arts in Art and Design Education, Master of Arts in Teaching, Master of Fine Arts, Master of Architecture, Master of Industrial Design, Brown Risdy Master of Arts in Design Engineering, Master of Arts in Adaptive Reuse, Master of Design in Interior Studies Adaptive Reuse, Master of Design in Interior Studies Exhibition and Narrative Environments, and Master of Landscape Architecture.
With the recommendation of the faculty and by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Rhode Island School of Design, I hereby confer the master's degrees with all the rights and privileges appropriate thereunto. Candidates for master's degrees, please come forward to receive your diplomas. We ask, okay, so at every commencement, we have a little push and pull with you families. At everyone. A young person's their name is, said, announced, and then somebody in this crowd goes wild. And then no one else can hear anything else. So what we will ask of you is to please hold your applause until all of the graduate students have been announced so that each family member who is not you can hear their family member's name. Now, we're going to have this be a collective exercise in discipline. we're going to see if the master's degree candidates' families can show the undergrad degree candidates' families how to do this. Okay. All right. Okay. So, are we ready to go?
Ready. Master of Arts in Global Arts and Cultures, Leslie Condon. Kobe Jackson. Yungyul Lee. Anissa Pietri. Senjuti Sanjia. Master of Arts in Art and Design Education, Christopher James Bodwin. Julia Rose Braffett. Ellie Cashman. Xiao Guo. Kira Ivory McCaffrey. Claire Mahar. Emily Sarah Van Heusen. Jay Yun. Master of Arts in Teaching, Kara Noah Cancelmo. Kara Lee. Zoe Isabella Osgood. Kimberly Ann Sieber. Master of Fine Arts in Furniture Design, Nino Noel Chambers. Jennifer Yoon Young Choi. Shubai Lee. Jumana Motiwala. Ilana Rachel Cates. Yishu Wang. Samuel Sherman. Master of Fine Arts in Graphic Design, Catherine Bugney Brown. Shi Hao Chang. Kimberly Joanna Duck. Luisa Maria Hendel. Do Hee Kim. Hyo Min Kim. So Young Go. Elliot Matthew Romano. Vishaka Ruhela. Brooke Sherry. Osman Chuma. Kirwan Selena Wu. So Jung Yoon. Yan Chen Zhao. Tina Zhou. Master of Fine Arts in Digital Media. Yoka Gong. Yvette Yingwen Lin. Crystal Jiayin Ren. Jess Skylerson. Jerry Vargas. Ada Yuting Wu. Hui Jun Yang. Yu Ye. Yitao Yuan. Fei Yang Zhuang. Master of Fine Arts in Ceramics. Catherine Frank. Mahalakshmi Mohan. Anna Popescu. Yilin Sun. Master of Fine Arts in Glass. Jung-Hoon Park. Yishuo Yang. Master of Fine Arts in Illustration. Marin Wesley Curtis. Esther Xinyu Du. Tori Hong. Sadie Lena Renska Levine. Yuanhui Li. Anam Nasir. Georgia Darley Oldham. Mavra Tehurim. Im Yao Wong. Qing Wen. Margarita Winkler. Rong Shu. Master of Fine Arts in Jewelry and Metalsmithing. Yu Shi Fan. Matthew Freeman. Hei Young Kwon. Jung Ki Min. Ali Vedad Yuner. Master of Fine Arts in Painting. Cassidy Argo. Jenny Xiaoxun Shen. Mary Jane Connell. Shamira Darab. Noah Ironic. David Mike Legrand. Swin Lam Wing. Abigail Parsons. Long Tin Zhang. Master of Fine Arts in Photography. Ella Comstock Baum. Mengru Du. Eric Jonathan Guzman. Caitlin Mercedes Rogers. Tom Stockton. Yushin Wang. Gaokangwei Zhu. Master of Fine Arts in Printmaking, Odette Danieli. Sophia Rebecca Saxon Spencer. Juan Antonio Torres. Yi Wang. Yingang Zhang. Master of Fine Arts in Sculpture, Hadil Ayman Madyan Alkuto. Carrie Esther Coates. Linda Suck. Master of Fine Arts in Textiles, Renee James Camarillo. Carly Rose Eel. Dora Young Kim. Hue Lee. Yutong Lee. Master of Architecture, Aisenur Chetin. Chongsu Cheng. Alexandra Leigh Croft. Jillian Lee Van Bree Edwards. Giles Jose Antonio Ferrao. Peyton Gonzalez. Estefania Granados. Alexander Grosick. Samantha Elena Hernandez. Min Ho Kwan. Isabel Troutman. Anand Upadhyay. Catherine Jane Wong. Joanna Hernandez Wright. Xu Li Wu. Jesha Shek. Michael Kwesi Yirenki. Master of Industrial Design, Alana Ahmed. Christopher William Baker. Chloe Violet Castaneda. Erica Nicole Chapman. Aram Nazareth Vestekjan. Kip Geddes. Jabril Sufyan Gould. Yuming Wu. Shoka Kartikeyan. Levon Kostandian. Chenglin Li. Via Yatuvninkus. Catherine Opry. Upasana Udav Pandey. Pratikesh Vijay Punkar. Emily Morgan Treese. Hannah Mae Whitney. Arlene Young. This is the Brown RISD Master of Arts in Design Engineering, Kayla Blaylock. Wei Yu Chen. Natalia Escobar. Sarah Fletcher. Bennett Graff. Elmer Handojo. Francesca Holland. Yunjin Hong. Audrey G. Nupur Cabra. June Lee. Shindy Yu. Vishaka Nirmal. Rushi Ukade. Shitong Yuen. Ji-Yu Jung. Master of Arts in Adaptive Reuse, Maria Cecilia Rodriguez Mares. Nahari Evertanesian. Master of Design in Interior Studies Adaptive Reuse, Abir Musa Al-Johani. Dalal Al-Mazidi, Al-Zain Al-Wahid, Mallory Beckner, Hele Gomariz, Yurin Zhang, Sage Leafsong, Wei Yi Ma, Millie Jignesh Shah, Jie Wang, Zhongda Wu, Jia Xiao Yang, Master of Design and Interior Studies, Exhibition and Narrative Environments, Dewani Bapna, Xinyu Dong, Bensu Girgin, J. Devin McPike, Xuting Xiao, J. Yun Xin, Min Sun, Xiang Yi Tang, Ji Peng Wang, Landscape Architecture, Master in Landscape Architecture, Allison Page Abrams, Dana Al-Kunfuzi, Ju Win Chen, Taylor Jace, Chloe Madeline Brower Khan, Sari Kwon, Tonmei Moore, Satya Munagamage, Jiachi Pan, Sharanya Rajan, Benjamin Riley, Shi Sheng Tang, Junrong Wang, Cody William Young, Jiayi Zhang,
Congratulations, master's degree graduates. Provost Gadesi, please present the candidates for bachelor's degrees.
Thank you, President Williams. Candidates for bachelor's degrees, please rise if you wish and if you are able. President Williams, upon the recommendation of the faculty of Rhode Island School of Design, I have the honor of presenting the candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Architecture and Bachelor of Fine Arts.
With the recommendation of the faculty, and by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Rhode Island School of Design, I hereby confer the bachelor's degrees with all of the rights and privileges appropriate thereunto. Now, the master's degrees, folks, did, maybe that was like a C+. So we're going to try and get to a B+, maybe an A-. So we want to make sure that all the families hear their students' names. So to the extent possible, we'll keep your applause until the very end when we can all just go wild. Okay. So are we ready to go?
Bachelor of Fine Arts in Architecture, Joshua Abramovich. Christine Beck. Qian Chen Tsai. Rong Cao. Yu Chen Cho. Xian Chen. Yu Peng Chen. Yu Xuan Chen. Lauren Isabel Cochran. Jing Cheng Deng. Eva Patricia Doleo Peña. Gabrielle Feigenblatt. Sofia Francesco. Rabelsi Josue Herrera Jr. Raymond Ho. Sung Woo Hong. Hao Hua Huang. Naomi Kern. Jessica Ko. David Dongwon Lee. Hangyo Alex Lee. Song Yang Lee. Junye Jonathan Lin. Emily Lo. Yingshuan Ma. Hui Betty Ng. An Wok Nguyen. Samantha Victoria Salazar. Kavina So. Junpeng Shi. Andrew Young Song. Megan Adele Sweeney. Wei Wong. Yao Wong. Jin Jane Xu. Yu Shen Zhang. Jiting Zhang. Bachelor of Fine Arts in Apparel Design, Adrian Aviles. Rolling Bai. Jersey Bond. Isabel Maria Clulo. Nurul Imam Asif Dar. Vivian Lin and Doc. Bryce Sato. Jiaxin Wang. Anna Joy Winter. Jinghan Zhang. Bachelor of Fine Arts in Furniture Design, Kaylin Tima Bryant. Anna Case. Arqueris de la Cruz Corazon. Jackson Trope Kemper. Sung Chan Kim. Ingrid Yinxi Liao. Cole Messinger. Grazie Moreno Ortiz. Viva Motwani. August Ostral. Palm Parami Panchaparasom. Ezra Cassius Pickens Rich. James Lee Sanui. David Benjamin Schwimmer. Ryan Everett Smith. Jessica Hyun Song. Amy Elisa Strong. Emilia Antonia Violich. Oscar Henry Walsh. Lily Wu. Selena Xie. Evan Francis Young. Avery Elizabeth Brown. Ashley Lee Tsai. Leonardo Bo Calzone. Radhika Chauhan. Jolin Chen. Rihanna Cheng. Li Jun Shui. Anya Drakulovic. Ritvi Gilara. Daniela Guerra Fiorenelli. Sejul Gupta. Xinyu Hu. Li Huang. Omina Jagusa. Hana Heyun Jung. Yeriel Jung. An Jingjung. Mina Aaron Kim. Ania Jordan Lee. Isabel Silky Lee. Min Hee Lee. Yunjae Lee. Shengyu Liao. Haoyuan Liao. Mandy Liao. Wenqing Ma. An Fong Gwen. Enya Ziai Pan. Mana Patinpan Prekavut. Miko Insulo Selye. Jasmine Ziyu Shen. Joat Kaur Tind. Shanya Vitayakul. Scarlett Wong. Siyuan Amber Wong. Ryan Young. Yunjun Yu. Jeannie Yu. Erica Yun. Chloe Jungwoo An. Soo-hyun An. Hong Bai. Austin Palmer Bélanger. Nina Chang. Eugene Gresham Chapman. Anthony Chen. Wenting Shen. Yuchun Chen. Wei Deng. Benjamin Xavier Garbus. Yesenia Gomez. Alexander Gornitovsky. Kushi Goyal. Boris Gramajo. Jinju Gu. Amelia Hake. Henry Hudson Hale. Josephine Gail Haston. Noah George Levy Howard. Hermione Beijing Xie. Yolanda Xingyi Hu. Alexander Sidney Infield. Ellery Makeba Jenkins. Ashley Kim. Claire Kim. Rachel Hannah Kim. Michael Maxim Kiselev. Natnisha Kitikara. An Kong. Skylar Lam. Hanbyul Lee. John Hoon Lee. Catherine Yejin Lee. Song Wei Lee. Yi Chen Lee. Michael Yitian Ling. Alex Leo. Malini Marino. Thomas James McCauley. Nicole Shinsu Nedef. Srinedi Nishani. Isabel Obelensky. Shreya Pramod Patel. Sofia Ponomarenko. Zane Roche. Sang Hyuk So. Wang Kai Sha. Selena Shin. Emma Spence. Mary Steck. Rachel Sup. Noah M. Talbot. Oscar Tengen. Anna Liwan Wang. Wendy Linru Wang. Natalie Monroe Wong. Shinji Wang. Yihan Wang. Junki Wang. Lingxiang Bruce Xie. Ken Yamamoto. Chun-Ti Young. Joel Tianyan Young. Lin Lin Yu. Xu Young Zhang. Yue Zhou. Bachelor of Fine Arts in Interior Architecture, Celine Chang. Xing Yi Fan. Kavya Goyal. Wenxin Hu. Minju Zhang. Xizye Li. Baixiang Zhang. Huarui Zhou. Bachelor of Fine Arts in Ceramics, Julia Ambrose. Catherine Fu. Jiarui Gan. Justice Ezekiel Harris. Orion Aurora Jaime. Sofia Francesca Mealy. Golrok Motochal Fazol. Haley Nicole Pirrett. Louis Eliezer Shaw. Bachelor of Fine Arts in Film, Animation, Video. Nicole Ujin Alton. Ella Givens Babb. Layla Jewel Cribbs. Napur Sushin Duyal. Max Dulis. Carson Meta Federizo. Alejandro Fine Ferrandis. Rainer Garden Olson. Sophia Ryan Gatti. Natalie J. Haug Pavlak. Ingrid E. Hua. Xinyu Huang. Ike Huntley. Ian Jekyll Kellaway. Madeline Namiyatun Kie. Tae Kyung Kim. Mayuko Kobayashi. Katrina Cecilia Larner. Haram Lee. Jewel Lee Johnson. Jia-Yi Lee. Anna Eloise McLeod. Julia May. Jate. Juhi Nagpal. Harriet Ann Neely. Ana Melida Olivo. Ro Yu Peng. Joseph Sabater. Viviana Sanchez. Richard Boji Shi. Isabel Tomlinson Aronofsky. Miles Tong. Callista Elise Toy. Tyler Walton. Ian Yiyang Wang. Katrina Sol Warren. Margaret Angela Wilson. Jixing Jenny Wu. Erin Shuaohen Shi. Xiaoran Xia. Natalie She. Ning Yen. Sylvie Zhou. Bachelor of Fine Arts in Glass. Si Yi Bao. Adam Meller. Joyce Yili Shi. Bachelor of Fine Arts in Illustration. Akilinyele Adebambe. Zeynep Al-Jumayat. Chloe Alvarez. Ayana Marlena Andino. Nicholas Joshua Austin Wakefield. Elizabeth Rose Bancroft. Rachel Quinn Breuer. Kayla Veronica Egypt Bryant. Ethan C. Burke. Chase Lewis Burns. Xiaoxin Sao. Kadeen Carrion. Ayana Asha Carter. Layla Carter. Daniela Storm Castañeda. Cynthia Loki Chan. Robin Chang. Jiahui Chen. Jilan Chen. Xuan Chen. Ziwei Chen. Julia Cheng. Isabella Choi. Young Han Choi. Raymani Cohen. Amelia Rose Labora Cumming. Ella Grace Dayton Yeager. Paul Joseph De Silva. Jasmine Utami Evans. Celestial Feng. Xinyan Feng. Sophie Feng. Anna Forrest Fischler. Malcolm Lee Kun-woo Fuchs. Jonathan Owen Folks. Marina D. Fraser. Brittany Marianne Garibay. Erna Victoria Gaideva. Hai Ming Ji. Yadelis Gomez. Eliza Florence Goodwin. Xinting Guo. Haley Reese Hagen. Su Wen Han. Sullivan Giselle Hendricks. Zephyr Grace Hendricks. Sol Ho. Tony Howe. Fiona Weiji Huang. Aries Huang. Madeline B. Ingram. Emily Zhang. Yuan Zhang. Yushan Zhang. Jia Wei Jin. Cho-Eun Kang. Gloria Y. Kim. Hannah Kim. Nathaniel Kolek. Jessica Labrache. Yu Chen Lai. Sharon Lee. Ronan Lesser. Miranda Autumn Lewis. Min Jun Lee. Amanda Jiao Lee. Sitong Liu. Yinja Liu. Yuchi Liu. Carmina Gray Lopez. Hai Liang Lu. Adam Lu. Jiawei Mao. Matteo Massarangelo. Xander Miner. Kiana Pan. Ro Park. Yun Hee Ra. Jessica Tsing Ruan. Sarah Franny Rule. Eduardo Sandoval. Astrid Shanley. Yilin Shen. Haley Marie Sheridan. Amanda Morgan Shee. Valerie Rome Skinner. Xinyuan Song. November Stanley. Siyuan Su. Yaning Sun. Julia Sung. Yiming Tang. Grace Tashel. Mika Tilton. Alejandro Alberto Toro. Mina Mickey Braswell Troyce. Chi Yun Tsai. Lily Van Munching. Jamie Andrea Wong. Sophia Hai Wong. Andrew Layton Webb. Catherine Winfield Witherwax. Ashley Yun Wu. Wyatt Shays Workman. Felix Xu. Rojan Yan. Wei Yun Yang. Winnie Yi. Adam Ying. Luna Yijiao Yuan. Edward Zhang. Yo-Yo Zhang. Jitran Zhang. Helen Zhao. Enya Deng. Nicole Zhu. Xinyang Zhu. Bachelor of Fine Arts in Jewelry and Metalsmithing. Yi Yu Tsao. Yu-Ru Chen. Kate Keating Felderman. Eliana Joyce Sherwin Feldman. Andres Cesar Guevara. Chen Yang Han. Hung Ki Hong. Swan Skylar Capelin. Avalon Barclay Daniel Palmer. Jaylin Tao. Yan Zhu. Bachelor of Fine Arts in Painting. Stefania O. Andreev. Tomo Borromeo. Metali Gagan Chaturved. Wilson David Dean. Alec Figura. Ellen Fritz. Dylan Christopher Gabriel. Evan Joseph Goldhagen. Stanley Hope. Soha Kim. Julia Faye Klugman. Hannah Ginger Jane Knowles. Claudia Ning Ko. Sia Kumar. Avalon Jane Lafosse. Calvin Lee. Siyu Lei. Fernanda Lacerda Machinena. Luke Morrison Osborne. Robin Yanshan Pan. Anne-Marie Makwenorki Quaynor. Angelina Lucia Rogers. Pari Rajesh Rohera. Alec Samperi. Zach James Sanyur. Baran Shafier. Yijin Shen. Alessandra Louise Grace Sutton. Tatiana Switzer. Valerie Mira. Xavier Sylvia Jackson. Clayton Doyle Vaughn. Philip Carson Walker. Kendall Willard. Amadi Sahar Williams. Billy Shiloh Wynn. Echo Shu. Luan Shu. Caroline B. Jung. And Zhao. Bachelor of Fine Arts in Photography, Rahim Ashley Bangura. Ethan Scott Brossard. Chloe Marie Delima. Maya Papi Margareta Demar. Natasha Du. Olivia Red Hampton. David Jordan Laredo. Sung Shu Lee. Paige Sonnet Sullivan. This is the Bachelor of Fine Arts in Printmaking, Aaron Alonzo. Sebastian Kim Bateman. Jude Big Boy. Camille Elizabeth Caligari. Ji Mu Fong. Syra Alexandra Fawcett. Ariella Rose Franco. Avery Lee. Kira Gabriel Sachs. Hazel Jung. Bachelor of Fine Arts in Sculpture, Marius Matias Soldal Andre. Wu Sung Tsai. Cassidy Eileen Colombo. Enid George Corcoran. Mia de la Fuente Ackersveen. Henry Philip Fialco. Lillian Christine Fisher. Wei Huan Huang. Jie-Xing Huang. Aiden Thomas Key. Rei-Xuan Li. Zhihe Li. Yutong Liu. Buzzy Martin. Natalie Catherine Moreno. Gregory Lamar Parks. Beck Patzinker. Marika Fiona Alexandra Passman. Isaiah Anthony Lee Rains. Sel Shu. William Jai. Zhu Zhang. Bachelor of Fine Arts in Textiles, Riley Borst. Roxy Leanne Bridges. Vivian South. Jessica Yuan Chang. Sophie Maglia de Jesus. Abigail Annette Foreman. Rachel Ann Hershon. Joyce Jury Kang. Clementine Hyunche Kim. Julia Hain Lee. Yebin Amelia Lim. Michael Antonio Mercado Jr. Dire Vivar. Clara Rose Rooney. Jinshuan Chu. Ashna, you ready? Dora Sung. Jixing Su. Julia Lakin Trebesh. Natalie Janelle Tyson. Theodore Johannes von Baer. Jing Ting Wang. Annie Leto Wiederhold. Karen K. Wu. Catherine Xinyi Xu. Reese Youngblood. Jiaxi Zhang.
We still have one formal piece of business to do. So, I again want to thank all of the families, beloveds, friends who have traveled from across town or across the globe to be here to celebrate the achievements of these remarkable, remarkable people. Thank you, families, for coming. I also want to take a moment to thank the staff and the multiple volunteers who've given their time on a Saturday afternoon to come and make sure that this day goes off without a hitch. So thank you, staff and volunteers, for being here, for helping us celebrate. And directly after this event, there's a celebration in Market Square, which is, your graduates will be able to tell you where that is. It's down on campus, right along the river. And we welcome all of you to come join us there. And so now, on to the last piece of business. You, brilliant ones, are about to become members of an extraordinary global community, the RISD Alumni Association. And no matter if they are at work in studio, part of a company, or collaboration, RISD alum use their talents and bold ideas to impact the world by tackling urgent societal and environmental issues, creating new businesses and forms of practice, inspiring us with beautiful works of art, products, and ideas. The power of artists and designers cannot be understated. And I want you to take a moment to consider what you want your legacy to be as you become part of this distinctive lineage that is almost 150 years old. So right now is the formal moment. So those of you who took off your mortar boards, put them back on. Turning the tassel, it's the formal word or phrase, symbolizes one's transition from candidate to graduate. So on the count of 3, I ask each of you to move your tassel from the right, so if it's not on the right, put it on the right. Okay, yeah, I see some of y'all. Okay, good. To the left. And for everyone in this assembly, please join me in applauding RISD's newest alumni. 1, 2, 3. Turn that tassel. Congratulations, class of 2025. All right, Hugo, you better get him.
Honored guests, please remain standing until all graduates have left the arena. You may meet, as mentioned, with your graduate outside or at the reception in Market Square. Led by the ERB, the stage party and faculty will form a celebratory tunnel for the graduates at the rear of the arena. Everyone, if you want to do it once again, get ready to put your hands together one more time. Rhode Island School of Design's newest alumni.